So I want to know on line 3, what the backslash does.
Is it?
Look at your output. Show me what's the output on the line on the screen.
Well, it's just I'm slash backslash a backslash cat.
Okay, well, how many backslashes do you see in your code, and how many
Well, there's
backslashes do you see in
oh,
your
so
output?
is one of them just a space?
So the escape character, in general, if we were to generically say what the escape character does, and let me go ahead and put this in my notes while we're going at this. So I'm going to share my screen. That way we can be. Then we'll go back to yours. So let's do quite a bit of Python today, if that is cool, to make sure
Yep.
we're all on the same page, and we'll get some crap in the notes. All right, there we go. Okay, so you can see this?
Yep.
All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about escape characters. All right, so in general, we're going to say the escape. Actually, I'm just going to say escape character here.
Yep.
The escape character is the backslash.
Yep.
So everything that we're going to say the character that immediately follows this is either treated as non-code or has a special function. All right, so for example, \n has the special function of a line feed. We could think of it as like press enter. Okay?
Yep.
\t has the special function of pressing tab. Add a bunch of spaces. Right?
Yep.
Okay? Now, backslash, I'm just going to put in parentheses here, some char will boil down to just that char. We use this when we want to display a character that has another meaning in Python. So, for example, if I want to actually display the backslash, that guy, the backslash is actually the escape character. So this guy has a special meaning inside of Python, right?
Yep.
So this is like a reserved character. So if I want to print backslash like this, it's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
In order to print the backslash, I have to print backslash like that.
Yep.
So if I just say print backslash, it's going to print nothing. But if I say print backslash, it's saying,
That makes sense.
yeah, we're going to escape the next character. So this is the escape character. So this first one gets treated as the special escape character. And it says whatever comes next is either going to be one of my special escape functions, like \n, \t, or I'm going to just treat it as whatever character it is. So this will print out a backslash.
Yep.
Similarly, print, another common use for this. So I'm creating a string here, right? If I try to print out a single double quote like that, it's gonna give me a syntax error because it's saying, "Oh, you closed the string right here. Why do you have this extra guy?"
Yep.
But let's say I actually want to print out that double quote. You escape it. So now I'm saying, treat the next dude as just the character, not whatever the Python symbol is for that.
Yep.
So that'll print out the actual double quote. That make sense?
Yeah, I have a question though.
Sure, go ahead.
If you were to do print, and then you did, you did all the stuff that you need, the, and then you put in the slash, but then you did your regular text, it would come out the same, right?
So tell me what you want me to type.
So just like print hello world. And then would that be the same here, do another one.
Tell me what the other thing you broke up there at
print. So do print, and then sorry, I can't, quotation marks, and then backslash hello world.
Okay,
would that be the same?
Well, so that's a good question. So what we'll go ahead and do, so it depends. It depends. Does backslash H mean something? So the question is, does this guy actually have a special meaning, or am I saying treat this guy as just a normal character? I suspect this is going to be treated as an error, but let's find out. So the easiest way to test this, so I'm going to actually change the way I'm sharing my screen, share everything, is, and you were actually already in it a few minutes ago.
The terminal?
Yeah, you could just open up the terminal, so you can do this with me. So you don't have to share your screen, just open up the terminal. And I'll make mine, you can see mine okay?
Yeah.
All right, and then go ahead and just type Python 3 and press enter. And what this does is it drops you into like an interactive Python terminal. So you can try out individual things. So rather than having to go and type like an entire program into a text document, then coming out here and running the whole program, which is what you do most of the time, if you're just experimenting, kind of like, oh, I wonder what this does, or I wonder what this does, this is the way to do that. So inside here, if I say print hello world, it's gonna, I have to write that again because it doesn't like those double quotes. So I'm gonna say print double quote backslash H. I can actually just stop right there and see how it feels about that. So notice that it's just displays the backslash H. So that means print backslash hello world would include the backslash hello world.
Okay.
So it doesn't actually print out the same thing as hello world because this guy would just print out hello world. Because by you putting that backslash here, you're saying I want to escape the next guy. And the next guy is not a special command, and he's also not a reserved word in Python, or is a reserved symbol in Python, like a double quote. So therefore, you must just want a backslash in there, and I'm going to print out exactly what you told me to print out. Backslash hello world. Backslash hello world. That make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, so in general, I would say it's not overly common that you have backslashes all over the place. But, the backslash comes in handy when you do want to display characters like double quotes, or you want to print something and force it to kick it down a line, that kind of stuff. Okay? Now, things like backslash T and stuff like that, I mean, they're handy sometimes, but a lot of times that's like for text formatting if you're printing stuff to the screen. But you got to consider that most of our modern programs that you'll be, writing software for have graphical user interfaces. You're not going to be doing a whole lot of printing stuff to the screen as a general purpose programmer. You're going to be writing an Android app or an iPhone app or something like that. It is more common now, though, in Python to work at the command line like this because now they're applying Python to things like something called data science and machine learning and stuff like that. So more often now you're actually operating out at a terminal where you're just looking at textual output rather than having this functional user interface. So with that in mind, backslash T's and backslash N's maybe are becoming popular again because sometimes you want your output to look somewhat pretty. Make sense?
Yep.
All right, so you kind of understand the purpose of those backslash things?
Yep.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump back into your screen sharing and show me your stuff again. Grab grabbing a soda real quick.
Here, let's screen share everything. Screen share. There. Alright. So we just were in exercise 10. So then exercise 11, I guess.
Yeah, so let's start off with, tell me what that input function does.
It creates the. Hold on, did we define in? No. So input does. It tells you it. Hold on.
Go ahead and run it.
Because I'm thinking about it's a variable.
We'll talk about it in more detail. Go ahead and run this program. So it's called EX11. So you're going to have to go out to your terminal, and let's run EX11. Well, now first of all, so go ahead and hit cancel here for a second. Because this looks like it's in a folder called LPTHW.
Yeah.
But let's see, is that so? You need to CD space LPTHW. So you're going to change into that directory. No, type CD space and then type LP and then press tab. There you go. So that's a good way to not have typos. Just type the first couple of letters and press tab and it'll complete it for you. Okay. So now we'll do Python 3 EX11 PY. Remember, you got to do Python 3.
Okay.
And then you can just type EX11 and then press tab, and it'll put the rest of it in there. Okay. So it's giving us an error message here. So we want to look at the problem with these error messages. And this is actually at the very beginning. What do you think the problem is? Okay, good. So number one rule of thumb, make sure you save this, and then you can go back out to the terminal and just press the up arrow. It'll let you do that same command again. Okay, so right now we're on the how old are you line, right? And now it's sitting on line 2, correct?
Yep.
So what do you think input does?
Input asks a question.
Yeah, it lets you read something in from the keyboard.
Yep.
Okay, input lets you read something in from the keyboard. All right, so you just read in, so you used input there to read something, whatever you typed, into a variable called age, correct?
Yep.
The next one is we printed out how tall you are. Now, what is that end equals space thing? What is that doing? So like on line 1 or line 3 or 5.
Oh, end in space for where to write. Is that it?
So, well, I'm not sure. It doesn't sound right to me. It's possible it's right in your head, but you're not saying it in the clearest way. Let me go ahead and prove it to you. So just let's exit out of this program real quick. So just hit Control-C.
Control-C.
Okay, so that just kills the program you're in the middle of, okay?
Yep.
So what I want to do is I want to go to right after line 2. At the end of line 2, press Enter to give me another space. So we're going to go back into the code, go to the end of line 2, press Enter there, and then just do print, open parenthesis, double quote, and then say, type in like, what does this do? Something like that. Just some sentence that we'll be able to see. All right, just like that. Okay, and go ahead and save this. Now notice we didn't do the end thing, right?
Yep.
All right, so go back out and run this program. Should just be able to press up, then enter. All right, so we're going to go ahead and have to type in an age first. All right, So now, what just happened when it said, what does this do?
So yeah, that's what I was trying to say, but I guess I didn't explain
Okay.
right.
So
So basically, well, number one, wait, no. So you, yeah. So it's basically like you're making the line for where to write.
well, I think it's going to be easiest to think about it the other direction. How does print work by default? Print by default does the so where it says end is equal to, actually let's do this. You just saw how it worked, right? On the output.
Yep.
So now on line 3,
Yep.
go ahead and put a comma, space, end is equal to, single quote, \n. The one leaning to the left. All right. Go ahead and save that. Run it again. You got to hit Control C to kill it, and then you can press up to run it again.
What is it?
Control C. That's like an old Unix command line key. Control C kills any Unix program that's running. Okay, so hold on. You see the what does this do?
Yep.
All right. Didn't it act identically to how it acted just a second ago?
Yeah.
But didn't we add an end thing?
Yeah.
Remind me, what does the \n do?
It makes a new line. Or
Yeah, makes a new line. So what you're looking at on line 3,
yep.
that is what the default version of print does. The default version of print kind of has an invisible end is equal to the \n.
Yep.
Okay? So by default, if you don't do anything special with the print command, it automatically will press enter at the end of your line. So what they're choosing to do here, just from a formatting perspective, is they're saying, well, we're going to ask a question, like how tall are you? But we don't want it to go ahead and press enter where you're going to have to enter your crap on the next line. Instead, let's just have it wait for you there at the end of that line. So they're using the syntax where we say end is equal to just a space so that it can, it overrides the default \n to just say, let's wait here. Don't kick it down the line. That makes sense?
Yep.
Okay, so that's the purpose of the end thing. Again, this is just a formatting type tool that you might use to make your program look a certain way. I mean, your program's not broken if you happen to enter in your height on the next line, correct? It just looks a little different. Okay, so you understand the purpose of that end thing?
Yep.
All right. So we read in our height, we read in our weight, and so go ahead and type in the rest of the stuff. So put in how tall you are, just some number, doesn't matter what you enter.
Okay.
So we're just going to read in information for height and weight. 4'10". You're a little shorter than me. How tall would you guess I am?
5'11".
6'5".
Really?
I'm a tall guy.
Wow.
I already guarantee my weight's going to be. What do you think my weight is?
Oh, I am so bad at guessing weight.
It's going to be funny. You're not going to offend me. What do you think? What would you guess my weight is?
Oh, I am like, I don't even know how much my dad weighs. I want to say 250.
250, okay. I'm going to guess you weigh probably 90 pounds.
No, I'm really light.
Oh, you're even lighter than that. 72 pounds. I'm actually interested in this. I'm about 390 pounds.
Really?
Yes, I weigh a lot more than you do. So I'm almost 5.5 of you. and I'm a lot taller than you. Yeah. I tell people that I seem petite, but in real life I'm actually quite large. Do you watch? Have you ever seen wrestling? There's some guy on wrestling that's called. His name's the Big Show.
Yeah,
Do you,
yeah,
you know who I'm talking about?
yeah.
Well, wrestling is a really big deal in India, and I was doing a recruiting trip in India earlier this year in October. So when I was
Yeah.
over there, they like facials, like the way I have my facial hair and stuff. So I kind of look like Big Show. And even though
Yeah.
he's a little, I mean, we're both giant compared to Indian people, right? So he's
Yeah.
taller than me, but like only by like 4 or 5 inches. But I'm already giant compared to everybody around me. So they all thought
Yeah.
I was Big Show. They were coming up and taking pictures with me and and all sorts of stuff. All right,
Uh,
so go ahead. We'll put in 72. Press enter. All right, so now what we're trying to do on line 9. Okay, so
yeah.
you're saying, so your age, so you're putting in parentheses. Now, what you wanted to have happen is you wanted it to insert the age, you wanted to insert the height and insert the weight, right?
Hmm.
Okay, go back and look at your book and look at the syntax. Why didn't it do that?
The one Python mod way. Seven?
Okay, because we're looking at formatting strings.
Where is that? Is it here? No, it's the one before this. No, here it is. Here it is. Okay. So it's the
Okay, so earlier you had that little F in there that I made you take out, right?
yeah.
Okay, tell me what that F was all about.
Um it
Well, let's go ahead and do this. Go back to your code and just put the F back right before that double quote.
Okay. Okay. Now Command S. So you run it in the terminal?
Yeah, so make sure you save it. Let me look at your code here real quick. Make sure that you put it in the right place. Yep, we're good. So save that. Now you notice as soon as you put that F in there, you notice how your text changed? The color changed? Okay. So go ahead and just press up to run this again in the terminal. Okay, you're good. So just go ahead and type in your age and stuff like that. You can just type whatever. You don't need to fill it all in perfectly. Just bang on the keyboard a little bit.
Wait.
So do you see how it inserted this stuff now?
Yeah.
Look at your output.
Oh my gosh. 7.
See how that works?
Yep.
So this is a formatted string. So by putting the F in front of the double quote, now this works in Python 3. In Python 2, you still did a formatted string, but you actually had to do it a little bit differently. I think it still works in Python 3 actually. So go ahead into your code. Let's go to line 10. And we're gonna write this a second way. So
Yep.
go ahead and type in print open parenthesis double quote, and then say, so basically copy the text from above. In fact, you can copy that entire line from above, and let's just take stuff out. Let's just do that. All right, so now right here, just do open curly brace, close curly brace. Leave age out.
Okay.
Okay, then put a space, then old. And you're going to do the same thing with the height and with the weight. You're just going to put little open, closing, curly brace placeholders.
All right. I turn around.
Okay, nope, not yet. So now right after the last double quote, so move over one line, one space rather, type in period, like a dot,
Yep.
format, Format, all lowercase, opening parenthesis, then age, comma, height, comma, weight. Those are the names of your variables. All right. Now go ahead and save this.
Oh, I see what.
And go ahead and run it.
Yep. I see.
So let's see this work first. So just press up and then type crap in just so it fills out quickly. Oh, you misspelled print.
Where?
Line 10. Actually, stop for a second. Go ahead into your go to the output real quick.
Yep.
Before you run it again. Let's just look at that error message. See in the error message it tells you it's on line 10.
Yep.
Okay. Now that won't always be accurate, but definitely always look at those error messages because the error message is saying on line 10 is where we first noticed the problem. It might have been before line 10, but it affected us on line 10. And then it shows you kind of the line where the error was. So, beginning programmers, one thing they kind of something they tend to do is as soon as something doesn't work, they immediately flip back to the code and don't actually spend a couple of seconds looking at the error message. Make sense? Okay, so now we got that fixed. Save it. Go ahead and try running it again.
So. Oh wait, we put it into us. That makes sense.
Yep. So you see how both of those lines have the same output?
Yeah.
But we accomplished it two different ways?
I think I get what.
Yep. So go into the code. Now, line 9 is the Python 3 way of doing this. You see how it's like a little bit cleaner? Like a little bit more convenient?
Yeah.
Right? We just kind of threw that F before it and just kind of like, this is good, right?
Yeah.
I usually refer to stuff like that when we talk about the differences between languages. So if we kind of go back and we think about the notes you and I have been going through, and I kind of talk about the history of these languages and how programming is programming, and we just have little nuances between different languages, we can really think about Python 2.7 and Python 3. Whatever as kind of sort of being different languages. Even though they share a lot of the same syntax, what you see in Python 3 is kind of some newer ways of accomplishing some of the old things. So line 9 is Python 3, line 10 worked in Python 2.
Yeah.
I would refer to line 9 as being an example of something that I call syntactic sugar. All right? So it really is the identical syntax to what's on line 10. In fact, there's a pretty decent chance that under the hood, it actually expands line 9 to be line 10.
Yeah.
But because you were able to write it with this little nice, syntactic sugar, the syntax that was kind of simplified for you, it was a little bit friendlier to write than what you had to write on line 10. Make some sense?
Yep.
But we certainly see that these guys are at worst first cousins. Okay?
Yep.
All right, so we kind of get the purpose. So in this particular exercise, we're looking at, reading crap in from the user using the input function. And then how do we, so let me flip back over to the notes here. You might not have to stop sharing your screen. I don't know what happens if I share mine, but let's just see what happens. Okay, you can see my screen, right?
Yep.
All right, so I'll just use this thing. So we're going to call this guy, we'll call this input from user.
Yep.
So we have the input function. Now actually, real quick, I think your screen's still shared, right? Go back to your code.
Okay. Code. Which one? This one?
Yeah. So on let's see, on line 1, go ahead and just copy the text that the double quote. How old are you? So not the whole line, just the stuff between the double quotes, including the double quotes.
I'm like, can I see?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, now inside the input function, on line 2, go ahead and type double quote, then Command V. Okay, now go ahead and delete line 1.
Like the whole thing?
Yep.
Okay.
And then save it, and then go ahead and run.
Should I like that?
Yep. Make sure you save. Okay. And then go out to terminal and press up.
No. I'm going all over.
It's the black
Yeah.
one.
Okay.
Wrong, wrong black guy.
Finally.
Press up.
Up.
Press enter. Now, see, go ahead and type 12. Press enter. Okay, now stop. Go back to your code now.
Yep.
Do you see what we just did?
Yep.
In line 1, there's a second version of that input function where we can actually give it up the prompt we want.
Yep.
So rather than printing a line that had the special ending that didn't push the carriage return,
Yep.
we were actually able to use a version of the input function that can take in a string to prompt the user.
Yep.
So that would have made all this code a lot shorter, right? We could have done the whole thing in 4 lines instead of having all these prints. All right, so if I go back to my screen then, so we'll just fill in the notes here. Okay. So input from user. We have this input function. So you see my screen now?
Yep.
Okay. So we have the input function. And I'll just put the little open close parentheses at the end of that guy right now. So that's what makes it a function. So we kind of have 2 options. One option is we can do something like print enter something. Something is equal to input.
Yep.
Or, I'm going to do this. Option 2, we can say something is equal to input enter something.
Yep.
And those 2 lines will do the identical thing.
Yep.
That make sense?
Yep.
It doesn't mean that this guy up here has no use.
Yep.
It just means that if you are truly just using the end equals thing to create a prompt, you might as well use the input, the version of input that takes a string and builds the prompt for you.
Yep.
Makes life a little bit nicer. Okay?
Yep.
So, this is like you went to Home Depot, you bought one version of the tool that required you to put a piece of tape above it first. And then here's the other piece of the tool that comes with its own tape dispenser.
Yep.
Something like that. Both of these tools are perfectly adequate. The second one was probably a little bit more expensive. But, if you already had tape at home, maybe you didn't need the tape dispenser or something. Okay? So that's what that whole lesson was about. How do we read stuff in from the user? And, how do we prompt the user? How do we read things into variables to store them? And then how do we output it back to the user? So let's look at that output stuff.
Okay.
So we'll call this guy user output. So we have standard output. So that would be something like age is equal to 11, print age, something like that.
Yep.
Okay. Or we could say something like print my age is age. They show you that in the code? Have you done Was that in the book yet? The little plus sign. Have you done that yet?
Um,
I didn't see any of your examples, but I don't know if they would have shown it. This is called string concatenation. So what this guy will do is it will print out my age is 11.
yep.
All right, that's what this guy will ultimately do. But you can imagine if you have a whole bunch of variables, so like that, the thing we printed out earlier, we said my age is this, my height is this, my weight is this, you know, all these things. We would have a whole bunch of like strings with little plus signs after them to, you know, glue a whole bunch of individual things together. Right?
Yeah.
We could also play the game like this. We could say something like my age is, and put a space there. And we know that the default version of print, jeez, come on. We know that the default version of print kicks it down a line, so we would have to say end is equal to a space. Then we can say, we can do a print age. With end is equal to a space. Then we can say print and my height is and is equal to a space. You kind of get what I'm doing here? You're kind of building this like really wonky output, right? You're making it look nice, but the way that you're having to go about it is you're leveraging these normal print statements with end equals at the end of it just to get everything to show up on one line. Okay?
Yeah.
So what they showed you in the code here, or in this lesson, is something called formatted output. Okay, and we can do that with a print, and we have a special kind of string called an F string. And this we can say my age is age, and I like it, or something like that. Okay? So we can accomplish it like that, which is similar to the historic way of doing it, where I would say my age is placeholder, and I like it, dot, format, age.
Yep.
All right? Make some sense?
Yep.
All right, so those two lessons, one was about reading stuff in from the user and storing it. The other one is how do I put it back out to the user in an organized way?
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Why are there two closed parentheses after age?
This one here is because the format function takes your comma delimited list of things that should fill in your placeholder. So if you have one placeholder here, you're only going to have one thing in here. If you had two placeholders, let's say you had another one here, like that. You could put a second guy in here, like LOL, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, but that first closing parenthesis matches up to this guy. The second one matches up to this original opening one.
Yep.
Make sense?
Yep, that makes sense.
Okay. Now, as you're typing this stuff, when you're going through and working on it, I think I told you this before, or mentioned it at least in passing, one of our previous classes, is make sure you type the stuff by hand as often as you can. And it looks like you already do that. You pretty much type by hand most of the things, and that's good. So don't do too much copying and pasting. You know?
Yeah.
I'm having you copy and paste sometimes just to show you kind of a different version of the same thing, just for time. But in general, it'll benefit you to type the stuff out because you'll make less errors. You already are seeing, you know, kind of your tendencies, right? You misspelled print once, so you know you probably are going to misspell print, you know, 5 or 10 times just because you're trying to type too fast. You just happen to flip the two letters. But then you'll kind of know that's your tendency, and eventually print will just come naturally. I mean, you know how to spell print, you know how to type print, but because you're just zipping along, it's just something you kind of see yourself being predisposed to messing up. That kind of stuff. And I'll just go ahead and throw one more slide in here, and I already said it out loud, but it's a super important thing, but I think you already understand this concept because you really quickly fixed the error when you had it. So Python requires indentation. Stuff needs to be indented. Now, because you have not had things inside of things yet, although you probably did with if statements in your more recent assignments, right?
Yeah.
It's important that everything at the beginning is all left justified, and then things that live inside of other things are indented underneath them. Okay, so indentation is a very important part of Python. Okay, so let's go back to you. Show me your next thing.
Okay. Let's see. All right. So we just did 11, right?
Yep, just did 11. Let's just glance at 12. I think it's more printing stuff. Okay, yeah. So I already showed you that second version of input, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're cool with 12. You understand all the stuff that's happening on there?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to 13. Okay,
Yeah,
so
I think I had a few errors here. And also, I didn't know if I had to type this or not.
that's a comment. So anything that starts with that, what starts with a pound symbol,
yeah, it's a comment.
is a comment.
I just didn't know if I had to write that and set it in the.
Yeah, you didn't have to, but a comment is for human eyes only. It's not going to be processed by Python.
Yeah.
So sometimes you might write a chunk of code that does something kind of complex, and you might want to put a little comment before it that kind of says, what I'm about to do does this. Something like that, just to let other people who might be looking at your code know that.
All right, so this was exercise 13.
Yep, so this is for reading stuff in from the command line.
Yeah.
Okay, so you see how they're, so just for the sake of time here, I'll kind of walk through this. So we're importing this from system, so the very top line there.
Yep.
Let's see, we're reading in 1, 2, 3, so 4 total things. All right, so go ahead and let's just run this. So this is called ex13.py.
Yep.
So go out to your terminal and do Python 3 space ex13.py, but don't press enter yet. You got to hit Control C first. You're still in your other program.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you should already be in the right directory. So Python 3 space ex13, and you should be able to press tab, but don't press enter yet. Okay, now type in, now put a space and do cat, dog, Charlie. Cat space, dog space, Charlie. Something like that. All right, so now we're looking at a situation where, hey, what if you have a computer program and you want to, when you run it, you want to give it some inputs at runtime? Okay, so go ahead and press enter on this guy. Okay, so notice here that it says the script is called ext13. The first variable you passed in was cat. The second variable you passed in was dog. The third one you passed in was Charlie.
What?
That make sense? So
That's so cool.
This allows you to pass in command line arguments. Now, again, this isn't real common today when people write programs today, but this was super, super common back in the old C programming days because everybody was writing code from the command line. Okay, and you've already for instance, press down once, just so it gives us a clean line. Okay, so when you type ls, so ls is a computer program that somebody wrote in C years and years ago, right? So just type ls, press enter. Okay, now you happen to only have Python programs in there, but let's assume that you had all sorts of different files in here. Okay, so now type in ls, then put a space, and say asterisk, shift 8 dot py, and press enter. Okay, do you see how it only showed you the Python files?
Which is all of them, but
Yeah,
yeah.
it happens to be all of them in this case, but if you only had those in a mix of a million files, it would have only shown these.
What
Okay.
happens if it's Can you do like? Does it have to be? It ends in this, or can it be like it starts with
Oh, it
this?
could be starts with it.
How do you do that?
Okay. Well, let me explain this real quick. Well, we'll do it again. So let's say you wanted to start with. Let's say you only want the ones that start with a EX1. So that would omit the 9. So
Yep.
do LS space EX1 star. And then press enter. Yep. So that's everything but the 9. Okay.
Right.
But now the punchline here is notice we're using a computer program called LS. And in this particular case, we gave it a single command line argument. We said,
Yep.
this is what I want you to search by. Here's a filter I want you to use. So these command line arguments have existed for years, and I promise you that LS command existed in 1970. Okay, this is an old Unix. This predated the dir command on DOS. So ls directory listing. This is people type that more than any other command because people were only looking at a terminal screen back in 1970. They didn't have all this graphic user interface stuff.
Yep.
Okay, so this allows you to pass in command line arguments. Like I said, it's not something that's super common, but it's something that is available. And if you go back to your code here, just click there. So in order to do that, notice that they're bringing in a special library. So there's a library in Python, this is on line 1, called sys. It's the system library. And inside the system library, there's a sub-library called argv. That's argument values, is what that stands for. Argument values. Okay. All right. Then in line 3, what they're actually doing is so argv is actually a collection of values. That make sense?
Yep.
And you happen to know that there's going to be exactly 4 values that you're going to pass into this one. The first value by default is the name of the script. So that you don't have an option on that one. But then you happen to decide I'm only going to have 3 additional ones. So what you're saying is load into these 4 different values the first 4 values from argv.
Yep.
So Python allows you to load multiple variables given a collection type like argv. Yep. All right, so kind of leave it at that for now. All right, so go to exercise 14.
Yep. All right, this one took a lot longer.
Okay. All right. So again, we're importing stuff. So you're bringing in you're bringing in 2 arguments. You have the name of the script and a username, right?
Yep.
Then you're going to prompt them. So actually what you're doing is you have a variable called prompt that you're just setting equal to the little greater than sign guy. Yep. Then you're going to print some stuff. It's a formatted string. We're going to say, hi, probably Charlie. I'm the whatever script. Okay, whatever script was that was typed in. I'd like to ask you a few questions. Then we're printing out, do you like me, Charlie? You see what I'm saying? This is putting together all the things we did before. So all of this stuff now should be a little bit clearer to you because we've talked about this stuff today, right? So this is just reading in a couple of command line arguments and then doing some formatted strings, making it kind of seem human because we're putting some stuff in there. Then we're reading into a variable called likes, and we're inputting them, giving it our prompt. So our prompt looks like a little DOS prompt or a little terminal prompt. So it's almost like you're talking to the computer. So that's line 8. Then on line 10, we're saying, where do you live, Charlie? And then you're reading in from lives, giving them a prompt. And then what kind of computer do you have? Reading in computer. And then we're printing that stuff back out, right? Yeah. So we're printing out
our... Why does this have 3?
Okay, so the 3 will give you a... it will... Let's see, what's the right way to explain that? it's going to give you a kind of an indented output, like a formatted output. Let me see if I can give you. Go ahead and run that while we're at it, and you will be able to see it from running it.
All right. Next. What happened?
Let me see your screen. Oh, you got to take that 2 out.
Oh.
You are taking in 2 command line arguments, but you don't tell it 2 up there. So now hit save, run it again. Oh, because when you run it, you have to give it your name.
Oh.
So go and run it again, because you have to give it that second command line argument. So press up, and then space, then type in Charlie. So now it's getting 2 command line arguments. It's getting the name of the script and then Charlie. So hi, Charlie. I'm this script. I'd like to ask you a few questions. Do you like me, Charlie? So just go ahead and type something. Okay. Press enter. Okay, where do you live? Just type whatever. And what kind of computer you have? Whatever.
Part of that, so.
Okay. All right. So, all right. So you said yes about liking me. You live in blah blah blah. Not sure where that is. Blah blah. So you see how it kind of gave it like in a formatted block.
Yeah.
So it kind of forced it to kick it down a line without kind of breaking the formatting, without having you to force like a \n in there.
Yep.
So it's a formatted string type thing. All right, so you see how that last exercise kind of brought all those individual little pieces together?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good. So that took you through exercise 14.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, so that's good. So now, for next week, we have that review assignment that I put up, which is actually a review from Unit 4. So that'll have you go back through and kind of think about this stuff again.
Yep.
And then we'll have you go ahead and do exercise 15 through 19. And these, I mean, now they should be getting harder and harder. So I think for next week, just these, 15 through 19 should be plenty, even though he doesn't have the next ones out there anyway. So those should be plenty of things to do for next week. But when you're working through them, really try to ask yourself those questions. Why does this work this way? So don't just set your goal of getting it to work. Try to understand when something works a certain way, go and try to figure out why did it do that.
Yep.
Okay, that makes some sense?
Yep.
Okay, so any questions about the stuff we did today?
Nope.
Hopefully it kind of clarified a couple of the things.
Yep.
Okay. So same time, same station next week?
Yep, sounds good.
All right, well, perfect. And let's see, the week, I'll remind you next week, but the week after we might have to do something weird, although I might be able to make it work. I'm going to be in New Orleans for a week, but...
yeah. I don't really know. That's December 26th, right?
I'm gone December 15th through the 22nd in New Orleans.
And
but I'll be in a hotel with internet and stuff, so I just need to kind of figure out what my schedule is, and we'll figure something out.
Yep, on Slack.
Yeah, but we'll talk. I'll see you next week normally, so
right.
We'll talk in person next week. So that's all we have to worry about right now. I'm just giving you fair warning that in 2 weeks we're gonna have to do something weird.
Yep.
Okay. Well, cool. I will see you next week, and I will get the video uploaded.
All right.
All right. Take care.